Welcome to our discussion on the puzzling genealogies in Matthew and Luke. It's really intriguing stuff. Two different accounts of Jesus' lineage that shape not just history but theology.
I'm ready for this deep dive. So, what's the big picture here?
Well, check this out. Both Matthew and Luke trace Jesus' lineage back to King David, but they do it in completely different ways. Matthew kicks things off with Abraham and goes through David's son Solomon, making it a very royal line, while Luke goes all the way back from Jesus to Adam via David's son Nathan, basically two different routes.
That's quite the divergence. So, how do they line up or not line up?
They only share a few names, which is really striking. It's like they're not even trying to match up perfectly. Instead, each list seems designed with its own agenda in mind, one emphasizing royal legitimacy, the other stressing a universal link.
Yeah, I get that. It almost seems contrived to support different theological points.
Exactly. Early scholars debated all this. Some argued that Matthew's account was the legal royal lineage through Joseph, and Luke's was the biological line. There's even talk about levirate marriage as an explanation to reconcile the differences.
Levirate marriage? That's the idea where a man marries his deceased brother's widow to continue the lineage, right?
Yep, that's it. And that explanation comes from early church fathers like Africanus and later Eusebius. They thought if you look at it from the legal versus biological perspective, it might resolve some of the apparent contradictions.
I see. But isn't there also the idea that each gospel was written with a specific audience in mind?
Yes, definitely. Matthew was primarily addressing a Jewish audience, so he emphasized Jesus as the rightful heir to the Davidic throne by linking him directly to Solomon and Abraham. In contrast, Luke, writing for a Gentile audience, extended the genealogy all the way back to Adam to show that Jesus has a universal, almost cosmic significance.
That's an interesting twist. So, even the genealogies serve as a kind of tailored message. But don't you think it's a bit arbitrary?
It might seem that way at first glance, but it's actually quite deliberate. By constructing the lineages differently, each author reinforced the identity they wanted to project. Matthew's 42-generation scheme, for instance, is neatly arranged into 3 sets of 14, which is no small coincidence. It's a numerological design meant to resonate symbolically.
Wow, I hadn't thought of it that way. So it's not just historical record. It's also a theological message crafted for specific communities.
Exactly. Critics like Bart Ehrman and Dominic Crossan argue that both genealogies are largely constructed. It's less about a strict family tree and more about a statement of who Jesus was meant to be, a king in one account and a prophetic universal figure in the other.
That really puts things into perspective. And what about the competing messianic claims? I mean, some scholars suggest, like Richard Carrier, that these differences highlight rival Christian communities.
Right. That's another layer. Matthew's version paints Jesus as the rightful king from a royal Davidic line, while Luke's version, steering clear of Solomon's association with the later troubled kings, suggests a more priestly prophetic role. It's almost as if each community was, battling over which version of the Messiah best fit their narrative.
That's fascinating. Sort of a theological tug-of-war, isn't it?
Absolutely. And then there's the polemic against other groups. For instance, Vermes notes that Luke, by avoiding Solomon's line, was possibly trying to sidestep the legacy of discredited kings and the Babylonian exile, presenting a cleaner, purer Davidic ancestry.
That's like saying, we're not messing with that corrupted history, right?
Exactly. It's a push to redefine legitimacy. And if you consider the dating theories, Matthew's Gospel is often placed at around 80 to 90 CE after the temple was destroyed, which might have driven the need to reassure Jewish readers that Jesus was truly the Messiah despite the political upheaval.
And Luke, being dated slightly later, around 85 to 100 CE, had to address a broader Roman audience by, downplaying the exclusively Jewish royal claims.
Precisely. That broader focus gives Luke a cosmic flavor, While Matthew ties Jesus to the Jewish nation, Luke stretches the connection to, well, all of humanity by starting at Adam. It's a deliberate shift.
That really challenges our traditional understanding of these genealogies, doesn't it?
It does. And some even go further with the mythicist view. Scholars like Robert Price and David Fitzgerald argue that these genealogies aren't historical at all. They see them as, holy fictions, crafted mid-rash designed to mirror Old Testament patterns rather than record actual ancestry.
So in that view, the genealogies serve more as literary constructs than actual biological histories.
Exactly. And get this. The earliest version of Luke, as used by Marcion around 140 CE, didn't even include a genealogy. It appears that section was a later addition by proto-Orthodox editors trying to fix the issues that Matthew's genealogy already raised.
Wow, that raises even more questions about authenticity and intent.
It sure does. And remember, the Ebionites famously rejected one or even both of these genealogies. They insisted that Jesus was, in a way, adopted by God and didn't require any earthly Davidic blood to legitimize his role.
That's a powerful reminder that, even back then, these narratives were seen as ideological tools rather than strict records.
Exactly. It's all about identity and legitimacy. Over the first couple of centuries, early Christians and even heretical groups debated whether Jesus was the rightful Jewish king or a universal savior meant for all mankind. These discussions tell us much more about the politics and power struggles of the time than about, his actual DNA.
It's like unpacking layers of historical debate that go well beyond a simple family tree.
Right. And so, every Christmas sermon that focuses solely on the lineage of David might be missing the fact that these genealogies are deeply entwined with the ideas of legitimacy, authority, and even, the community's identity struggles.
So, essentially, these genealogies are less about proving biological descent and more about making a theological statement?
That's a perfect way to put it. It's like a manifesto wrapped in family tree language. A way to say, this is who we claim Jesus was meant to be, rather than a detailed passport of his ancestors.
But then, if they're deliberately constructed to serve these narratives, doesn't that undermine the historical claim about Jesus's, actual human lineage?
It definitely challenges the notion of a purely historical account. It suggests that the gospel writers were, in many ways, more interested in conveying theological truths and, community ideals than in providing a factual account of ancestry.
That's a fair critique. It shows that history and belief can, interweave in very complicated ways.
Exactly. And it reminds us that these texts were written in a context of intense debate and, power struggles. They served multiple purposes: validating a messianic claim, affirming community identity, and even countering opposing views.
So, in the end, those genealogies tell us as much about early Christian politics as they do about any actual family ties.
Absolutely. They're like a window into the early church, a glimpse at how different groups fought over legitimacy, authority, and identity. It's both fascinating and a bit of a revelation in how we understand these texts today.
This really gives you a lot to think about, especially considering how tradition often treats these genealogies as straightforward historical accounts.
Yep, and the more you dig into it, the more you see the layers of political and theological strategy behind them. It's a reminder that history is often written with, an agenda in mind.
It's like each genealogy is a carefully crafted puzzle piece in a much larger picture of early Christian thought.
Exactly. And exploring these complexities is what makes this topic so, exciting. Each detail can lead you down a new path of historical inquiry. It's a rich tapestry of faith, power, and, interpretation.
And when you consider how these different narratives have influenced countless sermons, debates, and even modern perspectives, it really shows how contested and alive these texts still are.
Definitely. It encourages us to keep questioning and to look at texts not just as relics of the past, but as dynamic documents crafted in the heat of real historical debates.
This discussion really opens up new ways of looking at what might first seem like, dry genealogical details.
Exactly. It's all about probing beneath the surface and understanding that sometimes what appears to be a simple list of names is really a battleground of ideas and identities.
Well, thanks for unpacking this with such clarity. It's a reminder that history is, rarely as straightforward as it appears.
Absolutely. If this exploration got you thinking or even a little uncomfortable, just know that these debates are essential to understanding how communities define themselves over time.
Thanks for the engaging conversation. Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for joining in. Keep questioning and exploring those historical layers.